There is a quiet and ancient tension that exists within every human being. The tension between light and shadow. The light represents consciousness, awareness, truth, and growth. The shadow, on the other hand, is everything we hide, suppress, or deny. It is the sum of all that we cannot accept about ourselves, and yet this shadow is not inherently evil, it is simply unacknowledged. But when confronted by light, it recoils, resists, and often attacks. This is why those who embody genuine light, purity, wisdom, or authenticity, often become targets of misunderstanding, envy, or hostility. The shadow fears the light because light dissolves illusion, and illusion is the shadow's refuge. When an awakened soul enters a room, something unseen shifts. Their presence alone can stir discomfort in those still asleep, not because they say anything threatening, but because their energy illuminates what others would rather keep hidden. Every smile that carries truth, every act rooted in integrity, every silence that mirrors self-awareness, it all threatens the unconscious mind that lives in denial. The light does not attack the shadow, it merely reveals it. Yet revelation is unbearable to those who have built their identity upon concealment. Human beings spend lifetimes constructing masks, identities made of beliefs, pride, and collective expectations. These masks serve as protection against the chaos of the inner world. When someone who has removed their own mask walks among them, it unconsciously exposes the falseness of those who still wear theirs. This exposure feels like danger. So, the collective shadow reacts. It gossips, judges, and condemns. It disguises its fear as moral superiority or logical criticism. It does not know that what it truly fears is not the person before it, but its own reflection in that person's light. The light, by its nature, invites transformation. But transformation demands the death of what is false. And for the ego, the fragile shell that guards the shadow, this death feels like annihilation. That is why resistance is instinctive. The mind will create 1,000 justifications to avoid facing the truth. It will paint the bearer of light as arrogant, delusional, or dangerous. It will distort their message to protect its own survival. The shadow cannot exist comfortably in the presence of awareness, so it seeks to extinguish it, often through subtle forms of emotional warfare, dismissal, ridicule, or rejection. The dynamic plays out not only within individuals, but also within societies. Civilizations that glorify comfort, conformity, and image will always persecute those who speak uncomfortable truths. History repeats the same pattern. Prophets misunderstood, visionaries mocked, thinkers exiled, truth seekers silenced. Each time the collective shadow is confronted, it lashes out in defense of its illusions. Yet beneath every act of resistance lies fear, the fear of awakening, the fear that the world one has built is fragile, hollow, and impermanent. When a person begins to awaken, they will notice this resistance around them. Their kindness may be misinterpreted as manipulation. Their independence may be seen as rebellion. Their peace may provoke others' insecurity. This is the natural law of contrast. Light forces everything around it to reveal its true nature. The brighter the flame, the more sharply defined the shadows become. The awakened individual becomes a living mirror, and mirrors are rarely loved by those who cannot face their own reflection. This is why spiritual growth often brings isolation. The more conscious one becomes, the more invisible one feels among the unconscious. Relationships built on illusion begin to dissolve. Familiar environments start to feel foreign. The soul begins to recognize who vibrates in harmony with truth and who feeds on illusion. Yet this separation is not punishment, it is purification. The light withdraws from what seeks to drain it because it knows that it cannot heal others by dimming itself. Still, the light carries compassion. It does not despise the shadow, for it understands that the shadow is born from pain, fear, and ignorance. The light's purpose is not to destroy the shadow, but to integrate it, to bring it into awareness so it can transform. But this integration requires courage, both in oneself and in others. It requires a willingness to confront the inner darkness without judgment, to face the uncomfortable truths that shape human behavior. Most people are not ready for that confrontation. They prefer the safety of illusion to the risk of awakening. For the awakened soul, understanding this dynamic is essential. It prevents bitterness. It allows one to see attacks not as personal offenses, but as unconscious defense mechanisms. When the shadow strikes, it reveals its fear. When it mocks, it confesses its insecurity. Every projection from others is a message about their internal state, not a verdict on your worth. The light does not need to defend itself, it only needs to remain aware. Awareness itself is the ultimate protection because it turns hostility into insight. To walk as light in a shadowed world is to accept misunderstanding as part of your path. You will be blamed for the reactions your presence evokes. You will be told that your intuition is arrogance, that your authenticity is pride, that your independence is selfishness. But the truth is simple. Those judgments are the shadow's language. They are the cries of those who are not yet ready to see. The light remains silent, not because it is weak, but because it understands. It knows that every attack is a disguised invitation, an invitation for others to begin their own journey toward awareness. In every person, this battle continues, the war between what we are and what we pretend to be. The moment you choose truth, you awaken the shadow's resistance. Yet this resistance is proof that you are growing. The shadow's fear is a sign of the light's power. And though the shadow resists illumination, deep down it longs for it. Because only through light can it finally rest, no longer hidden, no longer afraid, no longer divided against itself. There is a dimension of human conflict that exists far beyond words, actions, or appearances, an invisible realm where emotions, intentions, and vibrations collide. This realm is energetic, it cannot be seen, yet it shapes every interaction, every relationship, every unspoken feeling between souls. Most people are unaware of it because they are trained to see only what the physical eyes can perceive. But the most decisive battles of the human spirit are not fought in the material world. They unfold silently through energy. The moment you begin to elevate your vibration, to purify your intentions, or to detach from collective negativity, you enter this unseen battlefield. Energy is the language of the soul. Every thought, emotion, and intention emits a frequency. Fear, envy, and resentment operate at lower frequencies, pulling energy downward, creating heaviness and confusion. Love, awareness, and peace vibrate higher, generating clarity and strength. When two energies meet, the one vibrating at a lower frequency naturally attempts to drain or destabilize the higher. This is not always conscious, it is instinctive. People who have not yet confronted their inner darkness unconsciously feed off those who radiate light. This is why empaths, healers, and spiritually aware individuals often feel exhausted in environments filled with tension or deceit. They are not merely tired, they are energetically depleted. In the unseen layers of human interaction, every exchange is an energetic negotiation. When someone criticizes you, they are not only delivering words, they are transmitting vibration. When someone envies you, their energy attempts to cling to yours, to disrupt your peace and reclaim a sense of control. Even silence carries power. A room can be filled with tension without a single word being spoken, because energy communicates what language cannot. You can feel when someone's smile hides hostility, when their compliments carry subtle resentment, or when their silence is loaded with judgment. The body senses it, the intuition translates it, and the soul recognizes it. In a world that idolizes logic, this truth is often dismissed. But emotional intelligence is energetic intelligence. To understand energy is to understand human nature beneath the surface. Every lie, manipulation, or act of hatred is an energetic act of theft. The stealing of vitality from another being. Those who refuse to manage their own emotional energy, seek it externally, they draw from others' light to compensate for their own disconnection. They are not evil, only unconscious. But their unconsciousness makes them dangerous to those who do not yet know how to protect their spiritual boundaries. When you begin to awaken, you become sensitive to these energetic currents. Crowded spaces may start to feel suffocating. Shallow conversations may feel draining. You will notice how certain people leave you anxious, heavy, or doubtful after spending time with them, while others leave you calm, inspired, and expanded. This sensitivity is not weakness. It is awareness. It means you are starting to perceive life through your energetic senses, not just your physical ones. But this awareness also marks the beginning of responsibility. You can no longer live carelessly among energies that seek to feed on your light. You must learn discernment, grounding, and energetic hygiene as matters of survival. Every emotion you carry becomes an offering to the energetic field around you. Anger, jealousy, and bitterness feed the collective shadow, while compassion, forgiveness, and clarity feed the collective light. When you dwell in resentment, you become an unconscious soldier in the war of lower energies. When you choose inner peace, you withdraw your participation from that war. The battlefield is not a place, it is a vibration. It exists wherever consciousness and unconsciousness meet. You fight not with force, but with presence. Those who understand this truth realize that energy exchange governs all human relationships. Romantic connections are not simply emotional bonds, they are energetic mergers. Friendships are not just companionships, they are vibrational alignments. Every relationship is an agreement between energies, conscious or unconscious. When two people resonate at similar frequencies, there is harmony. When one ascends while the other remains stagnant, friction appears. This friction is often interpreted as conflict, but in reality, it is energetic imbalance seeking resolution. The soul that vibrates higher will either lift the other or be drained by it, depending on awareness and boundaries. This is why awareness is protection. When you become conscious of your energetic state, you begin to sense when your peace is being invaded, when your focus is being pulled, or when your vibration is being lowered. The untrained mind interprets this as mood swings or fatigue, but the truth is subtler. It is energetic interference. Thoughts can be influenced by collective emotion. Your fears may not even be entirely your own. Humanity is interconnected through a vast energetic network where emotions and intentions travel faster than words. Every act of hatred adds weight to this field. Every act of compassion lightens it. The most skilled manipulators of energy are not always loud. Some wear the mask of politeness, others of innocence. Their weapon is subtle influence. A sigh, a doubt, a suggestion planted softly in your mind to destabilize your confidence. Once you internalize their energy, you begin to fight their battles inside yourself. They no longer need to attack you. You attack yourself on their behalf. This is how energy warfare operates, by turning your mind into the battlefield. To navigate this unseen terrain, one must cultivate inner stillness. Stillness is not passivity, it is energetic mastery. It means observing emotions without being possessed by them. The person who can remain calm in chaos is not unfeeling, they are anchored. They have withdrawn their energy from the storm and redirected it inward. This is how power is reclaimed, by refusing to engage at the frequency of the attack. Every provocation invites you to descend into lower vibration. Every choice to remain centered declares victory. Awareness transforms energy. When you become conscious of what drains you, you can stop feeding it. When you recognize manipulation, you can detach without hatred. When you sense deceit, you can choose silence instead of retaliation. Every act of restraint increases your energetic strength. The battlefield demands not force but sovereignty. You win not by conquering others, but by mastering yourself. Every awakened soul eventually understands that energy is the truest mirror of reality. Appearances deceive, words manipulate, but energy never lies. You can feel authenticity the way you feel sunlight. It warms without demanding anything in return. You can feel deceit the way you feel cold wind. It takes without giving. Life constantly asks which vibration you choose to align with, because that choice determines not only your peace, but the quality of every unseen battle you will ever face. Awareness is the most profound gift and the heaviest burden a human being can carry. It begins quietly, as a subtle questioning, a small crack in the familiar illusion. Something inside you starts to sense that there is more beneath the surface of ordinary life, more behind every smile, every routine, every unspoken rule of society. And once that perception awakens, you can never return to blindness. Awareness changes everything: how you see, how you feel, how you relate, and how you live. It is the birth of inner vision, but with it comes a cost. To awaken is to be set apart, to lose the comfort of ignorance, and to confront truths that most would rather never see. The world seems simpler before awareness. Relationships appear sincere, systems seem fair, and happiness feels attainable through achievement or approval. But when awareness begins to expand, the illusions that sustained you start to crumble. You notice manipulation where you once saw friendship. You see fear disguised as authority and vanity disguised as confidence. You realize how much of human life revolves around denial. Denial of pain, denial of truth, denial of self. This realization isolates you, not because you desire isolation, but because you no longer fit into the collective dream. The first stage of awakening often feels like loss. You lose the ability to participate in superficial conversations. You lose interest in competition, gossip, and meaningless pleasure. You begin to crave authenticity so deeply that artificial connections drain you. The people around you may not understand. They may say you've changed, become distant, or too serious. But in truth, you have only begun to see. You are no longer willing to live in shadows, pretending they are light. Awareness reveals the hidden architecture of human behavior, the fears behind actions, the wounds behind anger, the emptiness behind arrogance. It shows you that most conflicts are projections, that cruelty is born from pain, and that love without consciousness becomes attachment or control. Seeing this changes the way you respond to others. You stop taking everything personally because you recognize the deeper currents beneath every interaction. But even this understanding brings its own sorrow, the sorrow of compassion. You see suffering where others see enemies, and your empathy becomes both your strength and your ache. To live with awareness is to walk through life without blindfolds. You feel more deeply, sense more acutely, and perceive layers of meaning in every experience. Joy becomes purer, but pain becomes sharper. You can no longer hide behind excuses or distractions. Awareness forces you to meet yourself, your fears, your contradictions, your shadow. It shows you how your own thoughts create cycles of suffering, how your emotions shape your perception, and how your patterns repeat until you break them with understanding. There is no external savior in this realization, only the responsibility of consciousness. The price of awareness is solitude, not because solitude is imposed upon you, but because awareness transforms your relationship with belonging. You begin to understand that belonging to yourself is more sacred than belonging to a group. You start to prefer silence over noise, depth over comfort, and truth over validation. The crowd no longer feels like home because its rhythm is too loud for your inner stillness. You withdraw not out of bitterness, but out of necessity. You need space to breathe between realities, the one the world projects and the one your soul perceives. Awareness also dismantles illusions of control. You realize how fragile everything is: relationships, possessions, identities, even time itself. You understand that certainty is an illusion created by fear. This realization can be terrifying at first. The ego trembles when it realizes it cannot command the flow of life. But eventually, this same realization liberates you. By surrendering control, you begin to experience peace beyond expectation. You start to live from acceptance, not resistance. Yet, awareness will test every attachment you hold. It will challenge your loyalty to comfort, your addiction to validation, or your dependence on others' approval. You will feel the weight of letting go, not once, but again and again. Each level of awareness demands that you release another illusion. People may leave. Careers may lose meaning. Dreams you once chased may dissolve into irrelevance. But in their place, something far more real emerges: authenticity, clarity, and freedom from the need to perform. The awakened mind sees through systems of conformity. It recognizes how society rewards distraction and punishes depth. It notices how fear is used to manipulate masses, how convenience replaces purpose, and how collective ignorance sustains itself through constant noise. Awareness becomes rebellion, not through violence, but through refusal to participate in falsehood. You begin to live differently, speak differently, and choose differently. This subtle rebellion disturbs those who still depend on illusion for stability. They may label your awareness as arrogance, detachment, or madness. But such judgments are reflections of their fear of awakening. Awareness also alters your sense of time. The future loses its hypnotic pull, the past loses its grip, and the present becomes your only reality. You see how much energy humans waste chasing what doesn't exist: memories and projections. Awareness grounds you in the now, where life actually unfolds. But this presence can be uncomfortable, for it strips away distraction. It forces you to feel, to exist without escape, to meet the rawness of being without filters. The deeper awareness grows, the more you recognize the interconnectedness of all things. You feel the unity beneath the apparent separation. You realize that harm to another is harm to yourself, that love is not sentiment, but recognition of shared essence. Yet even this realization carries pain, because once you see the oneness, you can no longer tolerate cruelty or indifference. Your heart expands, but so does your sensitivity. The world's chaos becomes personal, and compassion becomes a constant ache in your awareness. To carry awareness is to live with duality, to see both the beauty and the blindness of existence. You understand the perfection of imperfection, yet you also witness the suffering it creates. You learn to balance insight with humility, wisdom with patience, vision with gentleness. Awareness demands endurance because it strips away illusion faster than comfort can rebuild it. But it also gives you with depth the ability to see truth where others see only appearance, to find meaning where others see only chaos, to stand firm while everything familiar dissolves around you. Human relationships are not random collisions of personalities. They are mirrors through which the unconscious seeks to reveal itself. Every encounter, every reaction, every judgment we make toward others is a reflection of something unresolved within us. The people we attract, the conflicts we experience, and even the emotions we suppress are all manifestations of what remains unhealed inside. To see others clearly, one must first learn to see oneself, yet few ever dare to look. It is far easier to project than to perceive. The unhealed mind avoids its own reflection by placing blame, by labeling others as the source of discomfort, by turning outward instead of inward. This is the root of most human suffering, not what others do to us, but what they awaken within us that we do not wish to face. Every unhealed person carries a fragmented mirror within, a distorted reflection shaped by pain, fear, and denial. When such a person meets someone who embodies traits they have rejected in themselves, they experience inner turbulence. They call it irritation, dislike, or even hatred. But beneath those reactions lies recognition. The soul recognizes in another what it has hidden within its own depths. The person who triggers you is not your enemy. They are the messenger of your buried self. Yet, instead of receiving the message, the ego attacks the messenger. It deflects responsibility and projects its disowned qualities outward, preserving the illusion of innocence. When you begin to awaken, you start to notice this process with painful clarity. You see how others' criticisms reveal their insecurities more than your flaws. You see how rejection often reflects fear, how anger conceals shame, and how jealousy exposes inner emptiness. You start to understand that hostility is rarely about you. It is about what your presence mirrors back to the unhealed parts of others. The light within you makes visible what they cannot yet bear to see. Your peace threatens their chaos. Your authenticity challenges their false identity. Your self-awareness exposes their avoidance. Without realizing it, your very being becomes a mirror they want to shatter. The mirror principle works both ways. Others are mirrors for you as well. Every time you feel triggered, every time someone provokes anger, envy, or discomfort, the reflection points back to your own inner landscape. What you condemn in another often lives, unacknowledged, within you. The trait you cannot stand to see is the trait your ego refuses to own. The soul uses relationships as classrooms. Every person is a lesson, every reaction a clue. The more you resist someone, the clearer the message they carry for you. Awareness begins when you stop asking, why are they like this? And start asking, what in me is reacting to this? This realization transforms the way you see human behavior. You begin to recognize that most people are not cruel by intention, but by unconscious defense. Their attacks are reflexes of pain, not deliberate malice. When a person mocks you, they are often defending themselves from feelings of inadequacy. When they envy you, they are grieving the unlived potential within themselves. When they judge you, they are protecting the fragile illusion of their moral superiority. Every act of rejection is an attempt to silence the mirror. The more unresolved the pain, the stronger the rejection becomes. Society itself is built upon this collective avoidance of reflection. Institutions, ideologies, and hierarchies are often designed to externalize blame. To point outward instead of inward, it is easier to hate a group, condemn a leader, or worship an idol than to confront one's own unconscious motivations. The unhealed individual becomes part of an unhealed collective, and the cycle perpetuates. The world then becomes a vast hall of mirrors, with everyone projecting and reflecting, yet no one truly seeing. Humanity wages wars not against others, but against its own reflection made manifest through others. The moment you begin to understand this, compassion emerges naturally. Not pity, but deep comprehension. The knowing that every outburst, every wound, every betrayal is born from pain. The unhealed person lives in fear of their own inner world. Their aggression is a defense mechanism. Their manipulation a desperate attempt to feel safe. Their indifference a shield against vulnerability. When you see this, you no longer respond with equal resistance. Instead, you learn to observe, to protect your energy, and to respond from awareness rather than reactivity. But awareness does not mean submission. Understanding the mirror does not mean allowing others to use you as their surface for projection. You must learn to recognize when someone's reflection is their own distortion, not your truth. You must know when to step back from those who cannot yet face themselves. Empathy without boundaries becomes self-destruction. You are not required to absorb another's unhealed pain to prove your compassion. True compassion includes protecting your light from those who would rather break it than face their own darkness. The mirror also reveals itself in love. When someone truly sees you, it is not because they are blinded by idealization, but because they recognize a healed part of themselves reflected in you. Love at its purest is a meeting of mirrors. Two beings who have faced their shadows and can now hold each other without distortion. But when love arises between unhealed souls, it becomes a battlefield of projections. Each partner sees not who the other truly is, who they need them to be to avoid facing their own wounds. They love not the person, but the reflection of their unmet desires. Awareness transforms this dynamic, turning relationships into sacred mirrors rather than endless loops of unconscious repetition. Every spiritual path eventually leads to this realization, and healing begins when you stop blaming others for what they reveal within you. The people who hurt you are not random villains. They are reflections of your own neglected aspects calling for attention. Their behavior exposes your boundaries, your attachments, your unresolved pain. To meet these reflections with awareness rather than resentment is the essence of inner growth. The outer world merely acts out the inner script until you rewrite it with consciousness. The mirror of the unhealed is not meant to shame you, it is meant to awaken you. Each reflection is an invitation to deeper self-knowledge, to greater compassion, to liberation from unconscious patterns. The pain of recognition is the first step toward integration. Every person you meet holds a fragment of yourself, waiting to be acknowledged, understood, and reclaimed. In a world obsessed with ascension, few understand that the path to transcendence begins not in the sky, but in the soil of the self. True elevation does not mean escaping life, emotions, or the body. It means descending deeply into them until they become transparent, understood, and harmonized. The soul cannot rise if it has no roots. To transcend is not to abandon the human experience, but to inhabit it so completely that it no longer controls you. Inner grounding is the bridge between the finite and the infinite, the conscious and the unconscious, the earthly and the divine. Without grounding, awareness becomes disembodied, unstable, and easily manipulated by external energies. With grounding, awareness becomes power, quiet, stable, and unshakable. Inner grounding begins with presence. Presence is not mere stillness, it is the full inhabitation of each moment, the deep awareness of the body, the breath, and the sensations that anchor you to reality. Most people live disconnected. Their thoughts wander into future worries or past regrets, while their bodies remain here, unnoticed. This split creates inner instability, a fragmentation of energy. When consciousness is scattered, emotions take control, and perception becomes clouded. Grounding reunites what has been divided. It draws the wandering mind back into the center of being, aligning energy with awareness. Only from this inner alignment can transcendence naturally unfold. Transcendence is not escape, it is integration. The illusion of spiritual progress often tempts people to rise above pain, to suppress emotions, to reject material reality in the name of purity. But avoidance is not transcendence. What is denied does not disappear. It sinks into the unconscious, gaining strength until it reemerges as confusion, fatigue, or inner conflict. Grounding demands that you meet what you have avoided. It asks you to sit with discomfort, to face the raw truth of your thoughts, to feel what you have numbed. It is through this descent that healing begins. You cannot transcend what you refuse to face. Inner grounding transforms energy by giving it form. Awareness without grounding is like lightning, brilliant but destructive, unable to sustain itself. Awareness with grounding becomes like sunlight, constant, warm, and life-giving. To remain grounded is to hold space for all your inner storms without being swept away by them. It means acknowledging fear without surrendering to it, observing anger without becoming its instrument, and allowing sadness to flow without drowning in its depth. Each emotion, when held in awareness, becomes a current of energy that, instead of consuming you, fuels transformation. The mind often believes transcendence is a state of permanent bliss, a detachment from suffering or desire. But true transcendence is a state of balance. It is the ability to hold both joy and sorrow without losing center. The grounded soul does not resist life's polarity. It moves with it. Just as trees bend with the wind without breaking, the grounded being adapts to the movements of existence while remaining rooted in inner stability. Without grounding, transcendence becomes delusion, a fragile fantasy that collapses the moment reality intrudes. Grounding connects you to the earth, not as a physical act alone, but as a symbolic remembrance. The earth holds everything without judgment. It receives birth and decay, joy and sorrow, creation and destruction, and transforms them all into growth. When you ground yourself, you learn this same wisdom. You become the inner earth, spacious enough to hold all experiences without resistance, fertile enough to turn pain into understanding. To transcend through grounding is to remember that nothing in life is wasted, that even suffering is raw material for awakening. In moments of chaos, grounding becomes the anchor of the soul. The modern world thrives on distraction, overstimulation, and emotional volatility. Every screen, every argument, every demand for attention pulls consciousness outward. Grounding reverses this flow. It calls your energy back to yourself. It teaches you to breathe before reacting, to observe before speaking, to listen to the quiet rhythm beneath the noise. This inward redirection is not withdrawal, it is sovereignty. You stop being pulled by the collective current and begin moving from your own inner rhythm. Inner grounding also dismantles illusion by revealing the body as the temple of awareness. Spiritual seekers often try to rise above the body, forgetting that consciousness expresses itself through it. Every sensation, every heartbeat, every breath is a sacred signal guiding you toward alignment. Ignoring the body in pursuit of spiritual experience only deepens division. The body is not the enemy of transcendence, it is its foundation. When you ground through the body, you reclaim the bridge between heaven and earth. You become the meeting point of both. The grounded mind is not easily swayed by the opinions or emotions of others. It listens without absorbing, observes without reacting. It knows that energy exchange is constant, and therefore protection lies not in walls, but in stability. When your awareness is rooted, external negativity cannot uproot you. It passes through like wind through a forest. The more you cultivate grounding, the less you need to defend yourself, because no external force can reach the depths of an anchored soul. Grounding also purifies perception. When the mind is unsettled, it interprets life through distortion. Every experience is filtered through fear, desire, or expectation. But when consciousness is grounded, perception clears. You begin to see things as they are, not as your emotions or conditioning define them. This clarity is the beginning of wisdom. You no longer chase illusions or resist what is. You move in harmony with reality rather than against it. This harmony is the first taste of transcendence, not as escape from life, but as full participation in it with awareness intact. Through grounding, you begin to understand that transcendence is not found in another dimension, but within the depths of your own stillness. It is the natural result of alignment, mind, body, and soul operating as one. You stop seeking enlightenment as a distant goal and start living it as a grounded state of being. You learn to trust your own inner rhythm, to find peace in uncertainty, to stand firm while everything around you shifts. Grounding gives wings to the soul because it gives roots to the spirit. Only what is firmly rooted can truly rise